time to talk about Lesson 79, the area of a triangle. So our vocabulary words, congruent. Congruent is a word used to describe things that are the same size, even when we don't know that size. The symbol for congruent is an equal sign with a little tilde on top. So it's equal, equal, Come on, say it with me. Equal, So I like to use the example of if you find two people in class and you put them next to each other and you can see that they're the same height, you can say they're congruent. You cannot say how tall they are unless you have a ruler to measure them. So congruent is where we know that they're the same, even if we don't know how that number is for them being the same. Our next word is base. The base of a triangle is one side length. So it can be any side of a triangle can be considered the base. Height. The height of a triangle is the perpendicular distance from the base side to the opposite vertex. So if you have a right triangle, the best choice for the base would be one of the sides on that right angle. If you have an equilateral or any other type of triangle, then pick any side as the base, and then you'll just have to use the height. If the problem gives you your base and your height, then use whichever ones the problem tells you to use. Okay, finding the area of a right triangle. The formula for area of a triangle is 1/2 times the area of a parallelogram. Because if you take a parallelogram and cut it diagonally, you get two triangles. Mind explosion here. Probably not, but I like to pretend it is. So if I were to find the area of this Post-it note, it would be 3 inches times 3 inches equals 9. But if I take this Post-it note and cut it in half, I now have a triangle. That would be 3 inches by 3 inches for my base and my height. But I only have half that parallelogram. So why not take 3 times 3 and cut it in half? So I'd have 4.5 as my area. And then if I open it back up and I had 4.5 plus 4.5, it would equal 9, which is what I would have gotten if I had done my 3 inches times my 3 inches. So I'm just showing right here some rectangles or parallelograms, and I cut them in half. And so this shaded part is the same size as the other shaded part. Area, split in half, gives me a triangle area. Area of a parallelogram, cut in half, is the area of a triangle. Area, cut in half, gives me the area of that triangle. So area of a triangle is 1/2 of the base times the height, or the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So example 1, find the area of this right triangle. Right triangle, and I gave you 4 inches by 4 inches. This would be half of a parallelogram, that would be 4 by 4. So area equals 1/2 of 4 times 4, which is equal to 1/2 of, I did the 4 times 4 first because that one's pretty easy, 1/2 of 16. So 1/2 times 16 over 1. 1 times 16 is 16. 2 times 1 is 2. 16 halves. 16 divided by 2 is 8. So we would have 8 inches squared. So how do you find the area of other types of triangles? So if you do not have a right triangle, you are not lucky enough to multiply the short sides. So these would be the short sides, and this would be the hypotenuse, or the longest side. You will actually need to use the height down from whichever side you pick for the base to the vertex angle across from it. Good news! In 5th grade, the book tells you the height. Bad news. When you get up into higher levels of math, they don't tell you the height anymore. You have to find it yourself. But there are methods to do that. Okay, so example 2. Find the area of this triangle. And it tells you 8 centimeters, 5 centimeters, and 4 centimeters. We need to figure out which ones to use. 8 centimeters is right here nice and flat, and 4 centimeters is coming up perpendicular from it. That means you're going to ignore the 5. You're going to use your base times your height. So I'm going to set it up as area equals 1/2 of 8, my base, times 4, my height. You know what? I see that 1/2 and 8 equals 4. I like small numbers. I'm going to go with that one. So 4 times 4 equals 16. If you prefer, you could still do area equals 1/2 times, what's 8 times 4? It is 32. Is it? Yes. I don't like my 8 multiplications. They've always been hard for me. So that's another reason why I did that divide by 2 first. So 32 times 1/2 would give me 32 over 2. 32 divided by 2 equals 16. And then I would put my unit, centimeters squared. So you can do it either way. When you have only multiplication in a problem, you can do it in whatever order you want. Spoiler alert, a fraction, this is just multiplying by a fraction, even though in the end we divided. Example number 3. Find the area of the parallelogram using area of a triangle. So we have this fancy diamond-shaped parallelogram, and it tells me that the triangle right here, so let me redraw that. So I have that triangle on the top with a base of 3 inches and a height of 4.5 inches. So we'll first find the area of the triangle, and we're going to say that it's the same triangle top and bottom, which I did not make that clear when I made the notes the first time. So 1/2 of the base 3 times 4 5/10, the height. So 3 times 1/2 would be 3 divided by 2. I worked out my division earlier. 2 goes into 3 one time. 1 times 2 is 2. 3 minus 2 equals 1. I'm going to bring down the 0 and make 10. 2 goes into 10 how many times? 5. So 5 times 2 equals 10. 10 minus 10 is 0. And I have my decimal place right here. I need to bring that up. So I have 1.5, 1.5, 1 5/10. So area of the triangle is 1 5/10 times 4 5/10. Now I'm going to do that multiplication. 4 5/10 times 1 5/10. I don't have to line up the decimal places when I'm multiplying. I ignore those decimals until the very end. 5 times 5 is 25. I write the 5 and carry the 2. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 2 is 22, so I write the 22. I move down to the next line. I put in my placeholder 0, and I like to put that x in there so I know that I did not earn that 0. I did not multiply something to get that 0. It's just holding the place. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 4 is 4. Uh-oh. I did that wrong. And I have 1 behind the decimal and 1 behind the decimal, which means I'm going to have 2 decimal places. So now I can put my decimal places in the problem. 5 plus 0 is 5. 2 plus 5 is 7. 2 plus 4 is actually 6, not 3. So, oopsie. So now, area of a triangle is 6 75/100 of a square inch. So my area of the parallelogram is equal to 2 times 6.75, which is going to be, should be 13.5. 5 times 2 is 10, 0, carry the 1. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 makes 15. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13. I have 2 decimal places, 1350 inches squared. So that is the actual correct answer. I will try to upload that to make it right. And that's all we need to know for lesson number 79. Good luck and make it happen, guys.